But apart from Manish Prabhu, okay, Pradeep Prabhu has also shared, I have not been able to read today, but very few are writing. If you don't write and if you don't make an attempt to know, it will be very difficult to understand. It will not sink in. This section, although we have covered, but some very important aspects which need to be emphasized again. Asanga shastrena dridena chitva. So Krishna is recommending that whoever is in this material world, what he has to do, he has to detach himself. So asanga here means detachment. It is not just asanga means to give up materialistic association, but one has to become detached or complete renunciation. And how it is possible? Having cut it down with the aches. And what is the aches? Aches is compared to the Vedic wisdom knowledge, Shastrena, of complete detachment, separating it from oneself. That is the soul. And everything else of this material world is matter. So this material world is a combination of both matter and spirit. So what one has to do? One has to separate the spirit from the matter, and whatever is matter, he has to become detached. Then what one has to do, that was in the 4th verse, is tat padam. Tata padam tat parimargitavyam. So one should then search for that object, Brahman, which is the great treasure existing at the root. So much Prabhu had written, so the root is the connecting point where both the material and the spiritual world meet, because the root is Krishna, he is the source of both. And what type of thing is that? Yasmin gata na nivartanti bhuya. That one should look for that object which, having attained Yasmin gata, one does not return. Na bhuya. We saw in the previous verses, in the previous chapter, Krishna is saying, Bhuya eva mahabaho. Listen again. That means one has to hear it. There is repetition. But here it is, na bhuya. That means no return. As we discussed yesterday, that the spiritual world is the land of no returns. He then explains the method of searching. I worship prapadde. Tameva chadyam purusham prapadde. That original person, Purusham. Purusham means the owner, the proprietor, the enjoyer. So that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original person from whom the long-standing Purani action of samsara pravritti has spread out. And how one has to search is by the process of bhakti. So performing bhakti, what qualities do people attain? So they can attain that goal. This verse explains Adhyatma Nityam. This is the next verse. Nirman Moha. So Adhyatma Nityam Vinivritta Kama. So Adhyam Nitya means those who make a rule of constantly considering about Adhyatma. That means one has to constantly endeavor. One has to practice about spiritual subject matter, spiritual knowledge. Those who are absorbed in reflecting on Paramatma. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, Shri Guna Nirapekshya Adya Sukham Dukkham Sukha Ataya Dukkham Kama Sukha Peksha Pandito Bandha Mokshavit. Very interesting translation. It says the supreme gain in life is devotional service to me. This is Krishna explaining. This is again Uddhav Gītā. The supreme goal is devotional service to me, and actual education is nullifying the false perception of duality within the soul. What is the duality? Is the identification with the mind and body. So actual education is to be free from the bodily conception. And real modesty is to be distinguished with improper activities, and beauty is Shri. Beauty is to possess good qualities such as detachment. Mokshvit. Mokshvit is, this is beauty. Real happiness is to transcend material happiness and unhappiness. Sukham dukkham sukha atayaya. A wise man, Pandito, is one who knows the process of freedom from bondage. And a fool is one who identifies with the material body and mind. The real path in life is that which leads to me. And the wrong path is sense gratification, by which consciousness is bewildered. Actual heaven is the predominance of the mode of goodness, whereas hell is the predominance of ignorance. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 19th chapter, 40th verse. Perfection of spiritual knowledge. This verse we discussed yesterday. Both these verses. So, na tad bhasate shuryo na sashanko na pavaka. So, Prabhupada is commenting on this, that in the spiritual world, it is self-illuminated, so there is no need of sun, moon or electricity. So, Prabhupada is asking, why should you pay the electric bill? What is this foolishness? Why should you pay the electric bill? Go there and live there, then there is no need to pay the electric bill. Na tad bhasate, the spiritual world is not lighted by the sun, moon. Na tad bhasate surya, because everyone is effulgent, every planet is effulgent. So therefore there is no need of these things. There is no ignorance, there is no scarcity. There is no miserable condition that is called Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha means Vigata Kuntha Yasmaditi Vaikuntha. Kuntha, anxiety, here every man, even the richest man, is full of anxieties. Prabhupada is in outside India, he is saying, he is in Nairobi, that your president, he is the richest person in this country. And he is the third richest man in the world. But do you think he is without anxiety? No, that is not possible. That is not possible. He is full of anxiety. The Prabhupada says in the purport also that one should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from the false reflection of reality. But those who have no information of the spiritual world, they stick to the material world. As everything is here. But those who have got knowledge, Mahatma, whose Atma is very great, who can understand the greatness of God and his great knowledge, and take knowledge, so here is that knowledge. Everything is here, he is giving. We not that back to home, back to Godhead is our imagination. No, not imagination. Just like if somebody gives you information of America, that America is a very rich city. There are so many big bridges, roads and motor cars. So naturally you become inclined. Why not see once America? How is it? Very practical. How many of us have an inclination to go to America, provided we get visa and free ticket? How many you will decline? The free ticket and visa comes to for America and you will not go. Sonika is saying she will decline. She is yet to receive an offer. So you don't know. I know one of our students, he is very focused in going to America. I called him few days back and he said, Prabhuji, मैं तो जा रहा हूँ. जा कहाँ रहे हो? वापिस इधर ही आएंगे. So this section now that we will be covering is transmigration. So one who cannot go to the spiritual abode, who exists in this material creation. So Krishna will talk about the jiva. So first in the 6 verses he has explained about the material world compared with the banyan tree. And then he spoke about the spiritual world. And now I will speak about the living entity. So there are 3 principal energies of the Supreme Lord. Swarupa Shakti, Bhairanga Shakti, and Tatastha Shakti. So Tatastha Shakti, that is marginal between both the spiritual and material, and that is the jiva. The 7th verse, Krishna speaks about the jiva. What jiva is doing, he is transmigrating. 7th verse is Mamevamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manashasthani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. So Krishna is giving the real identity of all the living entities and its lineage, from where the origin is. Krishna says, Mam eva amshaha. So the jiva, Krishna is saying that they are my fragmented parts. And they are jiva bhuta. Right now, in the material world, they are in conditioned stage. Bhuta means in the conditioned state. There are 2 stages. One is the Brahma Bhut. Brahma Bhut means when he has realized that he is not this body, he is not this mind, he is eternal, he is Atma. So that is Brahma Bhut. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati. But Jiva Bhut means when he is identifying himself with the mind and body. But irrespective of whether he identifies with his mind or body or whether he identifies with his Atman, he is always Sanatan. He is always eternal. Because that is the constitutional position of the Jiva. So 2 very important aspects are known through this verse, that we do not come from monkeys or apes or anyone else. Our origin is from Krishna. Krishna is directly declaring here, Mameva amshaha jiva loke. And jivas, in whatever condition they are always eternal. But why they are not able to realize that they are eternal or they are coming from the Supreme Lord? What is the reason? That this simple fact is not known to them, or this realization they are lacking. The reason is manashasthani indriyani. Due to their contaminated mind, and which is the 6th sense, and their senses. Because of their mind and senses, what are they doing? Prakriti sthane karshati. Prakriti is this material nature or this material creation. While they are situated here in this material world, they are struggling very hard. Karshati means struggle. Very strong struggle. What is the struggle? That they are trying to overpower material nature, or they are trying to control the material nature. or they are trying to enjoy the material nature. So because they are trying to enjoy the material nature, or they are trying to control the material nature, they are struggling very, very hard. And not just they are struggling very hard, they are not able to realize their real identity or real position. So Prabhupada says the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. So never they will ever, so the connection can never be broken. It can be covered, but it can never be broken. See the translation how Srila Prabhupada expertly writes. The living entities in the conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. So they can never be lost. This connection can never be lost. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, in this verse, the identity of the living being is clearly given. The living entity is the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, eternally. Since the existence, he is eternally connected to the Supreme Lord. So we will never ever be having any other identity. So if we assume any other identity, that is a false identity. The real identity is only one, is to revive. That is why the process of Krishna consciousness is to revive our relationship with the Supreme Lord. It already exists. It can never be terminated. But it has been covered, or it has been polluted. So what is to be done? It has to be revived. It is not that he assumes individuality in his conditioned life and his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme. So that is another aspect of understanding. That the individuality and the connection with the Supreme Lord exist forever. It is not that in the conditioned life it is so, and the liberated life both will merge and become one. No. It is clearly said, Sanatana. According to Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions, of which the primary expansions are called the Vishnu Tattva, and the secondary expansions are called the living entities. So this is Swa Amshaha and Vibhin Amshaha. You understand this? Swa Amsha means that which is the primary expansion. Swa means self, and Amsha means the part. So the expansion which is from the primary expansion, as Prabhupada is mentioning here, is the Vishnu Tattvas. So many expansions of Vishnu Tattva come from Krishna. But the Vibhin Amsha, the secondary expansion. What is the difference between primary expansion and secondary expansion? Can anyone, emphasize? What is the basic difference? So many videos are off. Maximum people want to keep their video off. Irrespective of how many times I request, no change. Half of the class video is off. So that I cannot ask them questions also. Bolo, jaldi bolo. It's okay anyway. Yes, Dolamani.
Prabhuji, they cannot be covered by the material nature. They are the Lord of the material nature.
Sorry?
The primary expansion, they cannot be covered by the material nature, Prabhuji.
Okay. But what is the basic difference? Okay, one difference is that the secondary expansion is covered by the material nature, but the primary expansion is not. But what is the basic difference I'm asking? Yes, Kiran?
Prabhuji, primary extensions are infallible. secondary extensions are fallible.
That is the same thing what Dolamani just said. Fallible
They have
means
got
they are influenced by the external energy Maya.
60 qualities of primary extensions as we transcendental qualities. The jiva can achieve maximum 50 transcendental. That is one.
Okay, okay, good, good. Okay. Yes, Sonika?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in trees, we read about primary branches and secondary branches. Similarly, primary expansion is in Vishnu Tattva. From primary expansion, there might be secondary expansion.
Might be.
Means there is a secondary expansion from primary expansion.
Can you explain how the secondary expansion comes?
Prabhuji, as you only told that there is expansion of Supreme Lord in the form of Vishnu Tattva, means Mahavishnu, and from Mahavishnu, several universe are coming. So from there we are coming, means the jivas are coming.
Yeah, very true. Very good. Yes, this is the precise answer. So the primary expansion is Swaamsha, is the expansion coming from the Supreme Lord. But the secondary expansion is the expansion which is coming from the expansions of the expansions. Well, Ganesh Prabhu, you had something to share? There we are all coming from Mahavishnu. And why is Mahavishnu manifest? Is only he is in charge of the material creation. Yes, Ganesh Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. I was about to say about that 64 qualities. Prabhuji.
64 quality. But the basic difference is what Sonika explained. That we are not coming directly from the Supreme Lord. We are coming through the expansion of his expansions. So we are Vibhin Anshaha. In other words, the Vishnu Tattva is the personal expansion and the living entities are the separated expansion by his personal expansion. Clear? Just see, everything is there in Prabhupada's purport. He is manifested in various forms like Lord Ram, Narsimha, Vishnu Murti and all the predominating deities in the Vaikuntha planets. The separated expansion, the living entities are eternally servitors. The personal expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the individual identities of the Godhead are always present. Similarly, you understood this sentence? The personal expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is the Swamsha, the individual identities of the Godhead are always present. So they exhibit, as you mentioned, up to 60 qualities. Similarly, the separated expansions of living entities have their identities as fragmental part and parcels of the Supreme Lord. The living entities also have fragmental portion of his qualities. As Kiran explained, up to 50. The jiva can exhibit maximum up to 50. So they have their own qualities, of which independence is one. But also the Supreme has complete independence and the jiva has minute independence. Every living entity is an individual soul and his personal individuality and a minute form of independence. Individuality we have discussed so many times. Specifically, we discussed in the second chapter that the individuality of the soul is never forfeited at any point of time. Neither in the conditioned stage, neither in the liberated stage. So he has individuality, he is distinguished, he is always individual, and he also has a minute form of independence. Independence means he has the free will to decide. He can choose, he can select. So that selection is never ever withdrawn from him. By misuse of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul. So one may ask that when the jiva has the same quality as the Supreme, and Supreme is ever liberated, and he can never be conditioned. So why jiva, who has the similar quality, is conditioned, whereas the Supreme is never conditioned? When both have similar qualities, why is it so that the Supreme or the Vishnu Tattva, they are never conditioned, but the jiva becomes conditioned? What is the reason? You understood the question, na? Question समझ में आ गया? When both have same qualities, why is it that the jiva gets conditioned and the Supreme is never conditioned? Clearly it is given here, because by misuse of one's minute independence. And we can see, to the extent we have independence, what do? Are we able to take a proper use of the independence, or do we misuse? As we grow up, in school, we had very little independence, isn't it? School, you have to wake up in the morning, go to school, attend classes, come back. Mother is there asking, what did you learn? What homework you have got? Then she will make you work. You have to attend your homework. But as soon as your schooling is over, you get more independence. What is the situation? Does somebody ask, did you attend class? And what we do? We start bunking classes. In school, did you ever bunk class? Did anyone bunk class in school? Very few. There may be some. Priyanka was bunking in the school. But you will be caught. You will be immediately caught because independence is very less. But when you come to college, if you don't come to class, nobody cares. Nobody asks you. And what we do? As soon as we get independence, we start to misuse it. The Prabhupada is mentioning here that it is because of the misuse of the independence that the jiva has, it becomes conditioned. By misuse of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul. And by proper use of independence, he is always liberated. So what is the difference between a liberated person and a conditioned person? Is his proper or improper use of independence. That is what will decide whether he will be liberated or he will be conditioned. In either case, he is qualitatively eternal as the Supreme Lord. In the liberated state, he is freed from the material condition and is under the engagement of transcendental service unto the Lord. So as one is in the service, one is discharging service, one is performing service as per prescription, as per guidance. So he is freed from material condition. The modes cannot influence. So many times we have discussed. In his conditioned life, he is dominated by material modes of nature and he forgets the transcendental loving service of the Lord. I went to one big store today to buy fabric for Nityananda Prabhu's dry fruit dress. And somehow one of the salesperson in the stores, he told me that my family members are also connected to ISKCON. And he was telling me that they are wearing kanthi also. So I asked them, is someone initiated? And he said, yes. So he called, actually his daughter, she is initiated. And then I asked her that you are initiated, and she said yes. Then I asked her that are you practicing? So she was hesitant. She was saying that I was practicing. So I inquired further that you were practicing means. Then she started to say that I am in difficulty. I have changed job and so forth. So that means what? That she is compromising. She is not able to do that. What are we doing? So at any point, at any moment, we can misuse or we can fall. Very important. The less we have independence, the more we are dependent, the more we are safe. We will not fall. And the more we have independence, the more there is possibility, not only possibility, but for sure. We will sink, not just fall, we will sink. Because the enjoying tendency is so deep-rooted, and the jiva is so foolish that he is easily enamored by the illusionary energy. Immediately the illusionary energy makes a spell around him and he is fooled and he is trapped. So Prabhupada is saying, in his liberated state, he is freed from material condition and he is under the engagement of transcendental service. And in the conditioned life, he is dominated by material modes and he forgets the transcendental loving service of the Lord. And I must say, I mean, the devotee who has come to prepare this dress, how much he has this deep desire, amazing devotee. I am seeing him for last more than 15 years. Every year, he comes all the way with his full family and his set of deities. He has very beautiful Gaur-Nitai deities. He was the first person whom I saw in ISKCON who was having the moving Gaur-Nitai deities. His Grace Radhacharan Prabhu. He was just calling me. I'll speak to him after the class. And wherever he is now serving in Mayapur, in TOVP. But when this festival is coming for Nityananda Prabhu, 1 month before he will come, leaving everything, giving up everything in this world. And for 1 month, he will completely dedicate for service. And he was also coming previously for marathon. He used to be in the altar and try and convince people who were coming for darshan to sponsor and take Bhagavad Gītā. Very, very dedicated. So here Prabhupada is saying that one who is conditioned by the mode, he forgets the transcendental loving service. But one who is liberated, he is always thinking about service. He is always thinking. Today he was thinking about what next year we will do. We were discussing that what kind of new design, what kind of new fabric we should take, what new colors we should take. So we were deciding for next year also. That next year how we will prepare the dress. Although this year's dress is not prepared, we will begin from tomorrow. And it will take almost full 1 month. 3rd is next month, February 3rd is Nityananda Tiradashi. The full 1 month he will stay, and he, his wife, and his sister-in-law, they will all be dedicated their time, their energy, their resources to prepare this dress. So if one is fixed in devotional service, he never forgets his service. This is a clear sign of one who is in the path of liberation. And one, after being told so many times, this is this service to perform, and he forgets, that means it's a clear sign that he is misusing his independence and is under the complete control of the material modes. He may say whatever. That is only his ignorance. Shastra, Srila Prabhupada is speaking the reality. Very important, very, very deep purport. Prabhupada is exposing the reality. As a result, what is the result of forgetting the transcendental loving service? He has to struggle hard to maintain his existence in this material world. Mana shashthani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. So till the time one is in material existence, what he has to do? He has to only struggle, struggle, and struggle. That is why, what is that theory? Survival of the fittest. Whose theory is that?
Darwin only.
Darwin only. Achha. He is a different person. No? Who was really completely, he is a epitome of one who has completely misused his independence. Krishna is saying, Mameva Amsho Jivaloke. He's saying, no. He is saying, Bandar Amshe. His vanshas are from monkeys, coming from apes and monkeys. And people are so foolish. I ask one basic question. If we were all coming from apes and monkeys, so in so many thousands of years, every monkey would have become man now. So how do we see monkeys? Then there should not be any monkey species existing, because they would have all transformed to become men and women. Or if the process is still continuing, then there will be half man, half monkey. Do you see any? None. The living entities, not only human beings and the cats and dogs, but even the greater controllers of the world, Lord Brahma, Shiva, and even Vishnu, are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. They are eternal, not temporary manifestation. The word karshati, struggling or grappling hard, is very significant. The conditioned soul is bound up as though shackled by iron chains. What is this shackle or the chain? The conditioned soul is bound up as though shackled by iron chains. The modes, the three modes. That is the invisible shackle. That shackle is not visible, but no one can be released from that shackle. Prabhupada further says, he is bound up by the false ego. The mind is the chief agent which is driving him in the material existence. So there is a very strong connection between mind and false ego. I have explained many times. Anyone remembers? There is a verse in Bhagavatam which explains this. Those who are regularly hearing should be knowing. Bolo bhai, jaldi bolo. I will stop early and I will sleep early. Yesterday I slept at 9:30. I am appealing to everyone. I don't know who is hearing, who is not, but at least let me have this full satisfaction that at least I am attending. Yes, Dolamani Prabhu.
Prabhuji, because of the influence of the false ego, the mind is so strong.
What is the connection? I am asking, what is the connection? This is mentioned again in the Uddhav Gītā. 11:28-17. Open. Very good. Very fast. This is false ego. This is being explained. What is amulam etad bahurup rupitam? Amulam means which has no foundation. The mind and the intelligence both have foundation. But false ego, does not, that means it does not have any physical existence. And it is bahurup rupitam. It exhibits in many forms. What are the principal form in which the false ego manifests? It is manaho. The first manifestation of the false ego is through the mind. Then vacha, which is speech. Prana is the life air, the gross body, one's activities or actions. Jnana, asina, upasanaya. Chitva munirgam vicharati atrishnaha. Come down to the translation. Read someone. Kana read.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Although the false ego has no factual basis, it is perceived in many forms as the functions of the mind,
Wait.
speech.
Wait. Very important. So how false ego works? As the functions of the mind. This is how Krishna is working with our mind. As the false ego or the illusionary energy which is working to the functions of our mind. Go ahead then.
Speech, life, air.
Wait. Speech. That is why Krishna is saying that what is the most important symptom of a man in transcendence is his speech. Through speech we can make out that what is the consciousness of the person. So a person who is influenced by false ego, his speech would be very bitter, very sarcastic, very heating and hurting. Okay, go ahead.
Life, air, and bodily
Faculties.
But with the sword of transcendental knowledge, sharpened by the worship of a bona fide spiritual master, a sober sage will cut off this false identification and live in this world free from all material attachments.
See how similar it is. Exactly the same what this chapter Krishna is speaking. But how one will have that sword very important here. Is this one may have this sword, but it is sharpened by worship of a bona fide spiritual master. One who is following the instructions of the spiritual master. So here it is, instead of sword, what Krishna is using here is an axe. The same thing. The purpose is to cut. Is to cut the knot of false ego or illusionary identification. And how that strength or that sharpness will come by the worship of a bona fide spiritual master. So Prabhupada says, not Prabhupada, Prabhupada's disciple says, in the purport, the word Bahu Rup Rupitam, perceived in many forms, also indicates that the false ego is manifest in the belief that one is a demigod, a great man, a beautiful lady, an oppressed worker, a tiger, a bird, an insect, and so on. So these are all false identification. By the influence of false ego, the pure soul accepts some material covering to be his ultimate self. But such ignorance can be removed by the process described in this verse. What is the process? What is the process? Yeah. Worship of a bona fide spiritual master. Okay, so you can close the share. When the mind is in the mode of goodness, his activities are good. When the mind is in the mode of passion, his activities are troublesome. And when the mind is in the mode of ignorance, he travels to the lower species of life. It is clear, however, in this verse that the conditioned soul is covered by the material body with the mind and the senses. And when he is liberated, this material covering perishes. But the spiritual body manifests itself into the individual capacity. So this is very clear that when he is conditioned, he is always identifying himself with the material body and the mind. The following information is there in the Madhya Nidhayan Shruti. Savya esh brahmanishtam idam shariram martayam astrijya brahma bhi sampadaya brahmana pashyati brahmana shunoti brahmana evedam sarvam anubhavati. It is stated here that when a living entity gives up this material embodiment and enters into the spiritual world, he revives his spiritual body. And in his spiritual body, he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He can hear and speak to him face to face. And he can understand the Supreme Personality as he is. So Prabhupada many times used to speak with the deities. And his disciples were amazed. And they used to ask, Prabhupada, what were you conversing with the deities? So Prabhupada writes that when one revives his spiritual body, in his spiritual body he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He can hear and speak to him face to face. And he can understand the Supreme Personality as he is. From Smriti also it is understood, Vasanti yatra purushaha sarva vaikuntha murtaya. In this spiritual planet, everyone lives in bodies, features like this Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as bodily construction is concerned, there is no difference between the part and parcel, living entities, and the expansions of Vishnu Murti. So we see in the Bible also it is mentioned that the Supreme Lord has created man in his own image. In other words, at liberation, the living entity gets the spiritual body by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Mamev Amshaha, fragmental part and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are also very significant. What was the other significant word? Yes, Ganesh Prabhu?
Prabhuji, Karshati, struggle.
Yes, unnecessary struggle. And the other is Mamev Amshaha. Fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord are also very significant. The fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is not like some material broken part. So Prabhupada has to clarify. Because as soon as we hear part and whole, so what does part mean? That has broken from the whole. So Prabhupada is saying, no, it is not like that. We have already understood in the second chapter that the spirit cannot be cut into pieces. What is the verse? Second chapter. Spirit cannot be cut into pieces.
Nainam chindanti shastani nainam dhati pavakam.
Yes.
And na chanam kledanti apo,
Ah,
na sushati maruta.
very good. Very good. Perfect. Nainam chindanti shastrani. That the spirit soul is uncleavable. Uncleavable means it cannot be divided or it cannot be cut. So this fragment is not materially conceived. It is not like matter which can be cut into pieces and joined together again. That conception is not applicable here because the Sanskrit word Sanatana, eternal, is used. The fragmental portion is eternal. It is also stated in the beginning of the second chapter that in each and every individual body, the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is present. Dehino asmin yatha dehe. That fragmental portion, when liberated from the bodily entanglement, revives its original spiritual body in the spiritual sky, in the spiritual planet, and enjoys association with the Supreme Lord. It is, however, understood here that the living entity, being the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is qualitatively one with the Lord. Just as the part and parcel of the gold are also gold. Prabhupada gives this example many times. He gives two very prominent examples, that a gold particle coming from the gold, it has the same qualities. Or a drop of water which is taken from the ocean, that also has the same quality. But it cannot be compared in the quantity. Okay. So transmigration. So one who is Karshati. Mana Shasthani Indriyani Prakriti Sthane Karshati. So what he has to undergo? Shariram yadavapnoti yacchapi utkarmati ishvaraha grihitvatani samyati vayurgandhani vasayat. Shariram. So he transmigrates from one body to another body. The living entity in the material world carries his different conception, but while he is transmigrating, while he is changing body, something does not change. And what is that does not change? The conception does not change. That is why so many times we hear, and it is being said, what is spiritual life means? Changing the conception. To the extent we are able to change the conception, we are able to give up from our own conception, we can make spiritual progress. Why it is so difficult? Krishna is explaining here. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another. Body may change. Externals can change, but the internal does not change. What is internal? The subtle body. The impressions, the experiences, and the aspirations remains the same. The conception remains the same. And how this change of body is happening? Prabhupada, Krishna is explaining that as the air carries the aromas, thus he takes one kind of body and again quits to take another. So Vayu Gandhan Ivashayet. So what the air can do? Air can transfer the aroma from one place to another place. Wherever it is flowing or wherever it is blowing, naturally it will carry over the odor or the aroma. Here the living entity is described as Ishvara. Yat chapi utkramat Ishvaraha. Ishvara means that one who is trying to enjoy the body, through the body. Although he is within the body, but through the body he is trying to enjoy. So he is being termed as Ishvara, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, and if he likes, he can move to a lower class, depending upon his action. In the 14th chapter, we discussed Urdhvam Gachanti Satvastha, Madhye Tishtanti Rajasa, and Adho Gachanti Tamasa. Minute independence is there. The change of body depends upon him. At the time of death, the consciousness he has created will carry him onto the next type of body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or dog, he is sure to change to a cat or a dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness on godly qualities, he will change into the form of demigods. And if he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Lok. In the spiritual world, and will associate with Krishna. It is the false claim that after the annihilation of this body, everything is finished. Here, very important is that what is the level of consciousness. So it is the consciousness which determines which next body we will get. If our consciousness is elevated, then we will get a higher status of birth. And if it is Krishna conscious, then one can go directly to the Krishna Lok. One gets a body, a different body according to karma, and he has to quit this body in due course. It is stated here that the subtle body which carries the conception of the next body. So one may ask, when the body is gone, why the conception is not gone? When the body is changed, why the conception is not changing? The living entity is changing body. But why the conception is not changing? बोलिए.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, as you explained right now that our subtle body is carried out along with the soul, so the conception is stored there only, no?
Yeah. Where, and the chief of it is?
Mind.
Mind. So all the impressions are stored there. It is called as samskar or vasana. And the mind is the storehouse. So if the conception changes, that means the subtle body is changing. And as the subtle body changes, the soul becomes liberated. It is stated here that the subtle body which carries the conception of the next body develops another body in the next life. This process of transmigration from one body to another and struggling one in the body is called karshati, or struggle for existence. Okay, I'll stop here. It is 8:45. I'll try to wrap up before 9 so that at least I also get an opportunity to sleep before 10. Okay, any question or clarification or any comment? बोलिए. Yes, Ganesh bro.
Prabhuji, with Vishnu Tattva sir, Lord's personal expansion.
Yes.
प्रभुजी यहाँ पे जो विभूति में आ रहे हैं, जैसे लॉर्ड ब्रह्मा, लॉर्ड शिवा, इवन विष्णु आर पार्ट्स एंड पार्सल ऑफ द सुप्रीम लॉर्ड. सो पर्सनल एक्सपेंशन और इसको कैसे डिफरेंशिएट, मतलब थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन.
See, it is said, Prabhupada is saying, he is manifested in various forms like Lord Rama, Narasimhadev, Vishnu Murtis. So these are all personal expansions. They're all Vishnu Murtis. And what is the very important thing? That his qualities are manifested in all these expansions. And the separated expansion, the living entities are eternally servitors. This is the main difference. Try to understand this. So the Vibhin Amsha, their constitutional position can never change. Nitya Sarvagata Sthanur Achaloyam Sanatana. In the second chapter also we discussed that. I'll come to your point. So I'm just making a basis for you to understand that what is the difference. So what is Brahmaji's position? What is Brahmaji's job?
Material creation.
And according to Krishna's instruction or Lord Vishnu's instruction. So what is he doing?
He's creating secondary creation. That
He's serving the Lord, yeah.
yes.
Isn't it? He has only one function, to serve the Lord. Is he taking the position of an enjoyer?
No problem.
No. What is Shiva doing?
Annihilation.
No. And does he decide when the annihilation has to take place?
No. He punishes those miscreants.
He is duty bound. He is duty bound. So where is the confusion?
Second paragraph, even Vishnu लिखा था, इसलिए थोड़ा confusion हुआ. 7th verse, second paragraph.
So they are all parts and parcel of the Supreme Lord, no? So they are parts and parcel, but one is Swamsha, the primary expansion, and the other is the secondary expansion. So Lord Vishnu is the primary expansion, Shiva and Brahma are the secondary expansion. Where does Brahma come from?
From the
Which
novel
Vishnu?
of
Which Vishnu?
Mahavishnu.
No, not Mahavishnu. Not Mahavishnu.
It is Garbhodakshayi Vishnu.
Garbhodev.
Yeah, philosophy is still not clear. It's all mixed up. Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. And Garbhodakshayi Vishnu is the expansion of Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu is the expansion of Mahasankarshan. And Mahasankarshan is the expansion of Sankarshan. And Sankarshan is the expansion of Balaram or Baldev. And Baldev is the expansion of Supreme Lord. So expansions of expansions of expansions, there is no limit. But the difference is in Tattva. What is the Tattva? That the Swamsha, they are all Vishnu Tattva, as devotees spoke, they are infallible, material nature cannot cover them, they exhibit up to 60 qualities. And the living entity, they can exhibit up to 50 qualities. Lord Shiva is unique. He is neither in Jeev Tattva, neither is in the Ish Tattva. But they are all coming from where? The origin is where? It is Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Mame Vamsho Jiva Loke. Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. The Prabhupada is emphasizing the part that they are all eternal. You see, no? See what is the next sentence? The living entity is not only human beings and the cats and dogs, but even the greater controllers of material world. So he's talking about the greater controllers. So these are the three controllers of the three modes or of the three functions: creation, maintenance, and annihilation. And they are also the superintendent of the three modes. So they are three controllers. Are parts and parts of the Supreme Lord. They are eternal, not temporary manifestations. So try to understand the full aspect of what Prabhupada is explaining. So everyone is coming from the Supreme. That is why Krishna says, right? Aham sarvasya prabhu. That he is the source, the foundation, the root of everyone. So some are direct, some are indirect. What are indirect? Those who are coming from his expansions. So they're not directly coming, they're coming indirectly. Okay, so another way to understand is direct and indirect, or primary or secondary. But what is the essential quality? Both are Sanatan. Whether it is direct or whether it is indirect.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Clear?
Yes, Prabhu.
The point of it, we have not invested our intelligence, our effort to assimilate Prabhupada's purport. Do we do that? Are you doing that? Do you every day read even one purport? Yes or no? Be honest.
No, Prabhu. Not every
Then
day.
how will you understand? How this Divya Gyan will Hriday Prakashita? Even the aspiration, the hankering is not there. After hearing, after reading, after studying, we should have at least aspiration. Believe me, for Mayapur, okay, we got the space and Krishna is so kind. Maharaj gave me 7 rooms and he promised me that he will give me 5 more further rooms in Advait Bhavan. So I told Kuber that we can get 15 more devotees. Okay. Even if a little effort, a little sincere effort is made, swalpamapi yasya dharmasya. Krishna is assuring in the second chapter that even swalpa, even if a little effort is made, Krishna will reciprocate. But that is what the proper use and misuse of independence come. We have time for all other things in the world. But here where we have to invest our intelligence, our heart, no, we don't care. So please, even one purport, even one page, even one paragraph, if you do daily, you will see you will make such significant progress. But it has to be done every day. At least we are having everyday classes, there is an opportunity to discuss every day. Discussion should be there. But we don't have discussion. Hardly we have discussion. Now you ask, so we are having some discussion. Otherwise, there is no discussion. It is very passive. You're not participating. 1 or 2 are participating. Others are still, they are reserving themselves. Not allowing their existence to come into this connection of what Krishna is speaking or Prabhupada is detailing. Okay, Sonika, what is your question? You
Hare
had your
Krishna
hand up?
Prabhuji. Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, as you told that in our next life, in our next birth, our subtle body is carrying, is going along with our soul. So the memory is also going along with the conception.
Yes, memory in a sense, see, the jiva is forgetful in his conditioned stage. So he has the subtle body is there, but he forgets what he did in his past body. But the experiences, the aspirations, the desires, the unfulfilled desires, they all are carried. Those impressions are there. Here it is there. See, in the conditioned life, see the first paragraph, the last 3 lines of the first paragraph. I am again reading. Everything is there in Prabhupada's purport. Our mind or our intelligence is still very naive. It cannot surpass what Srila Prabhupada has written, however it may try. He says in the conditioned life, he is dominated by the material modes of nature and he forgets the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So forgetfulness is another characteristic of the conditioned soul. You got it?
Yes, Prabhuji.
I think you're not convinced. What you were trying to see, I can catch to some extent. What you were saying, that when the past expressions are there, when the past experiences are there, when the past unfulfilled desires are there, how the memory is not there, with whom I did what and how?
Yes,
This is what you are
yes.
inquiring.
Yes, Prabhuji.
But the conditioned life is made in such a way that one forgets. Otherwise, he will not be able to exist in the next life.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji.
It will become more clearer. As we will practice, it will become more clearer. Some people have. They can see that what mistake they did in their past life. Only few can see. Jada Bharat could see. And he was very alert. He remained Jada throughout his life. And what we have to know, Krishna is already speaking in the 6th chapter, he has already spoken. Has he not? That one who
Yes,
falls after short practice, what is his situation? And one who falls after long practice. So we are which one? We can easily categorize, but do we change? We are still thinking that this is a long life to live. I have sufficient time. The urgency is not there. That desire is not there. So forgetfulness is an inherent characteristic in conditioned life. And why it is so? Because of the influence of the modes. Prabhupada is writing here clearly. In his conditioned life, he is dominated by the material modes of nature and he forgets. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
I'll stop here. So I have, good news to share with all of you. So whoever wants to come to Mayapur is open now. There is, see, this is mercy, real mercy. And we transferred some amount also. Ravindra Prabhu, I requested him to transfer some amount to book. And Radhachan Prabhu is here today. So I was discussing with him. He is staying in Mayapur for many years now, serving. So he also said that don't worry, you bring whoever wants to come. So whoever wants to come, we have so far taken some tickets. Some of the devotees have taken ticket. So please, if you want to have the details, it is with Ravindra Prabhu. The ticket is booked from 19th of February. And whoever wants to stay for as many days can come. Most welcome. The most merciful abode of Lord Chaitanya is Mayapur Dham, Navdeep Dham. Everyone is invited. Welcome. Na tad bhasite suryo, na shashanko na pavaka. Yad gatva na nivartante. But how many are willing to come? They don't want to leave. They want to remain here. That is attachment. Asakti. Okay, thank you very much. We'll discuss tomorrow. And please keep writing. Don't think that you have remembered or we know. It will not stay unless and until we drill it every day. If you keep drilling in your head, in your intelligence, in your mind, one day it will penetrate. That practice, that endeavor is required. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gītā ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Again it has become 9. But please, my request is try to sleep early so that you can wake up early. And if you wake up early, then you can have some attempt to chant your rounds with some attention. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.